Tempest Trials Plus Sands of Time is here, and it's a part of a new heroes banner this time. For the rewards, as always, if you hit the maximum 50,000 points, you can earn up to 42 orbs, 11,000 feathers, and 80 sacred coins. The blessing this time is a water blessing for Legendary Leaf from last month. For sacred seals, we have defense and res +2, Spur Atk and res, and Flier Guidance. For reward unit, we have Brunnya, the Wyvern General of Burn, and we'll talk a bit about her and what she can do with the mighty Fimbulvetr tome. Hopefully I said that right. You can earn a 4-star and 5-star copy. Our sacred seals this time are not bad, not amazing in a general sense, but I'm sure you can find a use for all of these. First up is defense and res 2, aka just a good old simple +2 defense and resistance. Not much else to say, it doesn't get simpler than this. It only takes 1 upgrade, so that's nice, and pretty much any unit will be fine with another 2 defense and res. If you just want some flat stats for stat comparison skills, then here's another option. Just a decent all-purpose seal. Second, we have Spur Atk and res 2. This spur grants +3 attack and resistance to adjacent allies during combat. I know spurs have kind of been overtaken by the sheer number of other buffing skills out there, but they are still decent skills. Dual spurs like this one grant more stats than a drive skill, but you do need to be right next to an ally, and that can be an issue for some situations. As a heads up, you can nab Spur Atk and res 2 from a 4-star Libra if you want to put it in the C slot, and then you can double up with its sacred seal for +6 attack and res total. Should only cost 1 upgrade as well, so saving some sacred coins is nice. You can slap these buffs on any unit pretty much, so the value of upgrading these sacred seals isn't bad. Unlike spurs, they aren't bad, it just depends on if you're okay with having your units together. Last, we have Flier Guidance 3. This skill is very rare, so I don't think many players will have gotten to use it or have faced it. Essentially, Flier Guidance is just the same as Guidance, but for flying units. Flying allies within 2 spaces of the user can move to an adjacent space next to the unit. So kind of a niche skill since it can only be used by flyers and it only works on flyers. Therefore, for the most part, this skill won't be utilized by most units in your barracks. However, Flier Guidance combined with all the other flyer mobility skills equals a whole lot of nasty for your flyer emblem teams. This is one of those skills where if you aren't paying attention, it can really screw you over. I'm not a fan of running into Flyer Emblem team comps, and with Flier Guidance as a sacred seal, I fully expect to see it a lot more. This skill would work best with ranged flyers on your team. You put Flyer Guidance on an ally, and that expands the attack range of your ranged flyers, and if it's a Blade Tongue flyer, then oh boy. Flyer Formation is also a sacred seal, so throw that on another flyer and you just have a ton of mobility options all over the board. For the Aether Raids teams with more units, you can also mix in some other movement types, and then you can start to use the flyer skills like regular guidance or aerobatics, and it's just madness. For some people, Flyer Guidance won't be upgrade worthy, but for the flying fanatics out there, this is a must upgrade, especially for making some confusing defense teams.
I am Brunnya, Wyvern General of Burn. It seems my path runs alongside yours for now. Mind if we walk together?
Our reward unit this time is Brunnya. She's a general from Burn, loyal to Zephiel, and in Fae, she's going to be a blue infantry mage. Brunnya has 42 HP, 35 attack, 31 speed, 21 defense, and 33 resistance. She's not breaking the mold by any means with a pretty typical mage stat line, good attack and resistance, some decent speed, and low defense. She has a rather high 42 HP, which is good and will be nice to have. We have a couple of other free mages with similar stats, and we'll talk about how Brunnya fits in a bit later. Thankfully, Brunnya has her own unique weapon, so we'll actually get to talk about something interesting. She has the Fimbulvetr tome, which is a powerful ice spell in the GBA Fire Emblems, and heck, it's even back in 3 houses. The sprite for the tome itself is actually pretty cool too. Fimbulvetr is a 14-might tome that grants a flat +3 resistance that's going to bring Brunnya up to 36 res with this weapon equipped. At the start of combat, if a penalty is active on Brunnya, or if Brunnya has less than 100% HP, then she neutralizes penalties and she gets +4 to all stats during combat. So this weapon effect isn't new, it's the same effect as Idun's Demonic Breath, minus the army effectiveness. So at first glance, this weapon effect doesn't seem that complicated, but there are a few specifics I want to make sure everyone understands so people don't get the wrong ideas. First up, in the description of a penalty, it's described as any effect that lasts through a foe's next action. It includes penalties inflicted by a skill like Panic or Threaten, and negative status effects such as Gravity. This may make it seem like Fimbulvetr neutralizes Panic or Gravity, and that would be amazing. However, it's not that simple. So if Brunnya has a +6 attack buff but gets panicked, Fimbulvetr does not get rid of Panic so that she's going to have that +6 attack buff. What actually happens is that Fimbulvetr gets rid of the stat debuffs caused by Panic, so instead of having -6 attack, Brunnya doesn't gain or lose any attack, she's at a neutral 0. It's very important to understand that Fimbulvetr does not get rid of status effects. Rather, Fimbulvetr gets rid of stat penalties like that -6 attack. So understanding that, Panic is a status effect and it inflicts stat penalties. The wording could be a bit clearer, but that's what we got. While it doesn't exactly get rid of status effects, Fimbulvetr still grants its +4 stat boost, so if Brunnya has the Panic status on her but doesn't have any field buffs to Panic, she actually still gets +4 to all stats. In conclusion, Fimbulvetr is a weapon that does okay against stat debuffs or Panic. In the case of normal debuffs like Attack Ploy or Speed Smoke, Fimbulvetr gets rid of those completely for Brunnya and she's going to get that +4 to all stats. In the case of Panic, Brunnya loses her field buffs due to Panic, however she's not going to go into the negatives, so that's actually very nice and it gives her a ton of consistency. Brunnya's niche will be going up against heavy debuff teams and she's going to come out fine. She does not hard counter the Panic status, so don't go giving her a bonus doubler and expecting her to have guaranteed stat buffs. Fimbulvetr also grants its extra stats if Brunnya is not at full health, so after she gets into a fight, Brunnya just gets stronger anyway. Idun is a monster thanks to her demonic breath and her ridiculous amount of base stats, so I don't know if Brunnya is going to be on that same level of scary since she isn't an army unit. However, she has range and 2 movement, so that gives her the ability to be a better initiator. I like Fimbulvetr, and while it may not be for everyone, we don't have many weapons that can deal with debuffs or Panic. Moving forward, it could become a pretty nice thing to have on hand. Sorry for talking so long about Fimbulvetr, but it's important to understand the limitations of the weapon before you start investing resources. Now for the rest of Brunnya's kit, it's pretty simple. She has Glacies to make use of her high res stat, her A skill is Death Blow because why not have more damage, her C skill is Res Smoke, which inflicts a -7 res debuff on the enemies within 2 spaces, though that opens them up for more magic damage. Pretty decent kit, Brunnya won't be hurt by stat debuffs, and she potentially gets extra stats along with Death Blow for some hard hitting attacks. If you like Brunnya but don't want to use too many resources on her, then a +1 merge can be decent at the cost of 20,000 feathers. Brunnya normally gets +1 HP and attack. The neutral nature is going to add +1 HP, +1 attack, and then a +1 res. She'll end up with 44 HP, 37 attack, and 34 resistance or 37 res with Fimbulvetr equipped. Pretty much all stats she likes having. So Brunnya's arrival is met with a little bit of competition. Earlier this year we had Fallen Delthea, who will be Brunnya's main comparison, and then there's also Sias as well. Renea and Oliver are a bit different from the rest, with Oliver having no speed at all, and Renea is a dancer, so really any combat performance isn't really her first priority. Between Brunnya, Delthea, and Sias, they all have pretty similar stat lines, Brunnya of course having more base stats to work with. Sias has his own niche with his double ploy tome, so we were not going to include him in this discussion. However, Fallen Delthea's death tome grants +4 to all stats like Fimbulvetr, except it's always active and Delthea loses 4 HP after every fight. We have 2 similar blue mages with 2 tomes that grant +4 to all stats, and they have different activation conditions and benefits. Both units can actually run similar builds, it's just that one might run a certain build better in a certain scenario. I think the main factor will be their 2 respective weapons, and this is why it's much more interesting when units have unique weapons to talk about. For Fallen Delthea, she is super simple. Death always works, it always grants +4 to all stats. It's just that Delthea is going to take recoil damage. Luckily, she can use that to her advantage since there's tons of builds that utilize low HP, and if Delthea can get to those HP breakpoints faster, then that can help her out massively. Thing is, if you think about what Fimbulvetr can do, you start to realize it holds a lot of power on its own in practical situations. So at 4 HP with no debuffs or status effects, it's obvious that Delthea and her Death Tome are the better option. However, in modes like Aether Raids, where you fairly often run into teams that utilize debuffs and Panic, that's where Brunnya can shine. Just to think about it, she literally cannot lose any stats due to debuffs, and while Panic stops her field buffs, she isn't losing stats because of it. If Delthea gets hit by a chill attack or Panic ploy, she's potentially screwed. That still grants its +4 stat boost, so it's not as bad, but Brunnya's Fimbulvetr never goes negative. At minimum, she's going to get that +4 to her stats, and that's it. This level of consistency may be what some players are looking for, especially in Aether Raids where Aversa dominates and you got Panic Towers and these stat debuffing structures too. Brunnya is not an end-all be-all answer to every scenario, but she's always fighting on an even playing field. We'll talk about Aether Raid specific builds in a bit. First, let's just discuss some budget options for builds for those not looking to go all in on Brunnya. As mentioned, Brunnya will be a consistent unit because she cannot lose stats to debuffs and she's not going to get destroyed by Panic, which is nice. She's not going to be an offensive monster and she may not be an unkillable tank, but like Fallen Delthea, she can be a solid all-around good unit. If you wonder with her base kit, adding Vantage to take advantage of Res Smoke can be nice, and adding Attack Smoke to reduce damage more if she does get hit is helpful in surviving. Remember, just taking 1 damage will still activate Fimbulvetr Fimbulvetr too. In a similar line of thinking, this would make Fury an obvious choice since it's guaranteed damage taken. While not as fast as Volendalthea, I do still think Brunnya can run Fury plus Desperation, but she definitely wants Brazen Tag and Speed as well. All the extra speed does add up, and remember, compared to Volendalthea, Brunnya won't be stopped by stat debuffs. She's cool and consistent. If you want some defensive options, you got Mirror Stance or other similar stances or bond skills. With her high base res, ploy skills are viable options, and she can lay down some debuffs of her own. Blue Tone Breaker is also decent if you want Brunnya to get 2 hits in on the other pesky blue mages, and breakers in general aren't bad if you don't have anything else. Not shown here, but I do want to mention are the Brazen skills with extra defense or res. +7 of either one of those, along with Fimbulvetr's +4, can make Brunnya a lot harder to finish off, and making Brunnya harder to kill will be the main focus of our next set of skills. If you truly want to use Brunnya for Aether Raids, I do think she's going to be better for Aether Raids defense teams. She could work on offense, but she is nowhere near the level of something like a special Spiralphilia in terms of damage. For defense, the same can apply, but Brunnya wants to build more to survive rather than to dish out damage. Being able to shrug off all stat debuffs and not lose stats to panic is super important, and if you tag her with any of those, then she just gets +4 stats. We want her to survive hits from pesky mages, and if they try to bait her to attack, we want Brunnya to live and set up other teammates for success. In general, I think a highly merged Brunnya is going to be best suited for this role because if her base stats go up, then that just means her level of consistency is higher to begin with. In terms of skills for survivability, Sturdy or Mirror Impact are really annoying. If a low attacking res skill ever gets made, then it's good for Brunnya since it's going to work on both phases and it cancels out the enemy's field buffs. Other defensive skills include Fortress Defense and Res 3, Distant Defense, Steady or Warding Stance, and the Fortress Sacred Seals 2. Guard is always annoying to fight against, and while Res Smoke is nice, there are other options like Attack Smoke or Panic Smoke just to cause some chaos. Again, Ploy skills or Sabotage skills are also good in Aether Raids, and if you can raise Brunnya's res high enough, then those are fine too. Last, I want to mention the Aether Raids only skills because I think the defensive versions are viable. You have to be smart with your structure placement, and they can give you stupid amounts of stats. Luckily, Brunnya can take advantage of the speed and resistance variant because that one comes from Mercedes, who got demoted to the 4 to 5 star pool. I think this skill is super underused since it's actually somewhat obtainable if you just get lucky. Overall, I think this is a great Tempest Trials. The selection of Sacred Seals is okay, it's nothing crazy. Defense and Res 2 and Spur Atk and Res are both useful on any unit, so you can get a lot of value out of upgrading them. As for Flier Guidance, I truly think you'll start to see it pop up on any Flier Emblem team out there. If you see a team of Flyers, definitely be sure to check who has this seal on and be wary of their crazy attack ranges. As for Brunnya, we've had a long discussion about her and Fimbulvetr. Her stats aren't anything special, but her niche is being able to not be affected by stat debuffs, and she won't lose stats to panic. While you may not encounter either of these in some modes, Aether Raids is filled with this kind of stuff, so Brunnya could have a place there. I'm gonna say that she is one of those units that will need some heavy investment to see better results. I want to reiterate that Brunnya probably won't be a god tier tank or sweeper, she will just be consistent since she isn't affected by debuffs. She has multiple build options and is similar to Volendalthea from earlier this year, but Brunnya will differentiate herself in certain situations. Fimbulvetr isn't going to feel oppressive, but it can come in clutch when up against heavy debuffing team comps. As a free 5-star unit, I wouldn't expect too much from Brunnya. She's decent, but you're going to need those more premium skills to keep up with the ridiculousness of Aether Raids. For those that want to use her, she has a lot of room to grow. Thanks for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts on Brunnya and our Sacred Seals. While I personally don't plan on doing anything special with her, I do think she's a great Tempest reward unit. Unfortunately, unless Tempest units get a re-1, she's going to be very expensive to merge up, at least compared to Volendalthea. I like what they did with Fimbulvetr. I feel like it won't be super popular since a lot of what it does is under the hood, kind of behind the scenes stuff, but sometimes that's all it takes to catch another player off guard and mess up their plans. For those that aren't interested in having to worry about debuffs or HP and all that stuff, then check out Volendalthea. She may be a better fit for you if you're just looking for a simple blue mage with a ton of stats. That's all I got for now. I'll see you guys next time.